22nd, 2021. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Miss Hersey, Miss Colasetti,
Here.
Miss Bishop,
Here.
Miss Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Before we get started, I wanted to recognize a person tonight. This is Jason Liggett's last evening at the helm, behind the scenes for an Urbana City Council meeting. Jason's been with the city since full-time since November of 2014 or 2007. He started as a part-time camera operator earlier that year, has worked for the city for the past 14 years. He is now the Urbana Public Television station manager. Throughout those years, he has mentored hundreds of students, members of the community. He helped them learn how to use equipment and produce their own shows. He broadcast sporting events at the Urbana schools. He's been unfailingly professional in achieving excellence in everything he did. And we especially appreciate his efforts over the past 20 months when we shifted to remote meetings and Zoom, and the workload intensified in the past couple of years. So I just wanted to express our appreciation and our thanks for his many years of service, and wish him the best in his next chapter of his life. And I know he'll enjoy his Monday evenings. Thank you, Jason, from all of us.
Well, thank you very much. I've always enjoyed my Monday evenings. I don't know what you're talking about. I'll just enjoy them from home now. Thank you.
Yes, you will. Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday evenings. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jason. All right, let's have approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. That's November 8th, 2021. Is there a motion for approval?
I move to approve. And Darcy, I'm here.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Moved by Sharice, seconded by Mary Alice. Are there any substantial corrections? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. Are there any additions to the agenda? Grace.
Thank you. I would like to add a presentation by Mariah Madison from Buy Black Champaign to learn more about the organization and see about establishing a relationship. And I would like that to be at the usual spot before public input.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those, let's see, could the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. All right, we'll move on to presentations and public input. Could you please promote Mariah Madison to be a panelist?
Thank you. And could I do a quick introduction while she's coming on?
Yes.
Thank you. So again, Mariah Madison, Chandra and I invited her to join us tonight so that we could learn more about Buy Black Champaign and what they're doing as an organization, and see about how we could start to establish a relationship and hopefully partnership, especially in lieu of reducing some of the VCC EDC stuff by 5,000 each, with the intention, although not in there yet, for it to go to other organizations in the same field doing similar work run by and targeted for people of color. So we wanted to have Mariah here for a presentation, and I think she would need to screen share too. Is that correct? Can you screen share?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. I'll let you go ahead.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for entrusting me with your time tonight and letting you tell you a little bit more about Buy Black Chambana. I have prepared a video presentation first, and then I'll go ahead and talk about how Buy Black Chambana can directly help the city of Champaign and its residents. Again, thank you for your time tonight.
Hi, I'm Mariah Madison, the CEO and founder of Buy Black Chambana. We are a community organization dedicated to empowering and creating space for all people to celebrate and honor Black culture, support Black-owned businesses, and uplift the community through our many events, partnerships, and workshops. In 2018, I started my first business, Nannyville. Nannyville has grown to become Champaign Urbana's premier babysitting service and nanny placement agency. But success didn't always come so easy. Even with a degree in business administration, navigating the road to entrepreneurship was tough. There was no chamber or association that could help prepare me for the obstacles I would face as a first-generational Black business owner. After connecting with peers and mentors, I would soon find out that those obstacles weren't unique to me. Buy Black Chambana is home to Champaign Urbana's Black-owned business directory filled with over 150 businesses. More importantly, it is a home and a safe space to those who are willing to advocate for an inclusive community to help bridge the gap. On our one-year anniversary, our goal is to update the Black-owned business directory so that we can continue to make finding and connecting with Black-owned businesses as seamless as possible. I am so proud of the strides we have made so far, and I can't thank you enough for your continued support.
Awesome. So that is our video we used to promote for our one-year anniversary. Buy Black Chambana was started in late August of 2019, and it has been a privilege to be operating Buy Black Chambana for over 2 years now. So Buy Black Chambana is a membership-based and online platform connecting consumers with Black-owned businesses. Its mission is to strengthen the use of businesses owned by racial ethnic minorities and to recommend and create opportunities for business development, including mentoring, training, and networking opportunities. Buy Black Chambana partners with business owners and contractors to help achieve this organizational mission. So what is the purpose of Black-owned businesses joining Buy Black Chambana, and what are the benefits? We always say that we're stronger together. So by joining Buy Black Chambana, a Black-owned business can increase visibility, learn from top entrepreneurs, connect with business owners, and have more vendor opportunities and increase sales. But tonight, I'm here to talk to you about partnership. By becoming a partner with Buy Black Chambana, you can increase your visibility as a community ally, give voice to marginalized people, support culturally inclusive events, and network and connect with business owners. And so how do we accomplish our mission? How are we building an inclusive community? And we do that in several ways. That's with the Black-owned business directory filled with over 150 businesses, with 60 of them residing in Urbana. We do education and training where we host monthly workshops and offer one-on-one consulting services and business boot camps to help refine and develop entrepreneurial skills for long-term success. We have our online shop and vendor booth where we feature items from local Black-owned businesses and markets throughout Central Illinois and online. We advocate and help with policy, so we collaborate with community organizations to address issues and policies that create barriers to entry and growth. We have our social events and festivals. So we host culturally inclusive events, including our member socials, the Urban Market Pop-Up Shop, 217 Black Restaurant Weekend, Business of the Year Awards, and photos with Black Santa, which I'll tell you more about. And then we also have the Black-owned Business Fund, where we assess funding needs and allocate them towards Black-owned businesses that have been affected by COVID-19 and systemic racism. 217 Black Restaurant Weekend is an opportunity for the community to support and bolster about Black-owned businesses that have some of the most bragged about menus and truly engaging atmospheres. We do this event in conjunction with Juneteenth. Simply put, we're using food as a force of good while highlighting community culture. We're celebrating Black-owned restaurants, celebrating togetherness, and championing inclusion. We do the urban market. Historically and presently, Black-owned businesses have been denied loans and resources to start their businesses and obtain mortgages and storefronts, especially downtown. In order to acknowledge the years of oppression and obstacles that have created a lack of ownership of property, Buy Black Chambana hosts the local pop-up market where you can find items from local Black-owned businesses. So it's like a farmer's market, but it's geared towards those trending items. And for our first urban market, we got a chance to partner with the CCP, VCC, and also the Chamber of Commerce in support of their Let's Shop Small downtown event. And they were able to create a space for these other Black-owned businesses. We also do the Business of the Year Awards, which aim to highlight and celebrate Black entrepreneurs and community allies whose work has helped to support inclusion, collaboration, and capacity building with African-American communities in Champaign County. We do photos with Santa. We partner with the Black Fathers Club and host the photos with Black Santa. Santa is powered by imagination, and we want children to see the fantasy manifesting in someone who looks like them. And we all know that representation matters, not just because Black kids need to see it to believe it, but because other cultures need to see us as heroes as well. We also have Luminous Magazine, which is a quarterly print and online editorial dedicated to empowering and uplifting the community through positive representation of the Black community, shifting the perspective, widening the lens, and telling the truths that are often untold. Additionally, we love our events calendar. People can post events to the calendar, as well as some of the businesses, the 150 businesses host events that are usually need help marketing or bringing awareness to so that people can know and attend those events. And we're able to share resources about upcoming workshops with other chambers and associations through this event calendar. So who can be a partner? Anyone. You get some amazing partnership benefits, and you help to create an inclusive community that welcomes and reflects Champaign County's diverse population of people. Sponsorship provides an excellent platform to make an organization's goals actionable. And while packages are customizable to fit the needs of every organization, here are some of the benefits that most people ask and recommend. So we have acknowledgement as a partner on buyblackchambana.com, posting to the event calendar, being included in those social media blasts, acknowledgement in our monthly newsletter, the quarterly ad in the print magazine, contributing sponsor to Buy Black Chambana signature events, an in-depth feature in our monthly newsletter, and the title sponsor of one of Buy Black Chambana's signature events. This is really important because our partners help invest into our mission to being able to create that inclusive business community. I do want to share a testimonial. I have two here, but I know I'm running short on time. And these are two Urbana businesses located here. Mike with Wooden Hog says, I know Miss Madison very well, and her journey is much like mine. I think her platform is increasing and the people are just aware that Black culture, though we are individuals and unique, we deserve to have the same platforms and national media attention. Black-owned businesses need to be supported every day, and not just because we're Black. It's because we have something of value to offer. Buy Black Chambana is home to the Black-owned business directory filled with over 150 businesses. And as I look at the other chambers and associations directory, I can only identify 32 of the 150 that's in our directory. I ask that you decide to partner with Buy Black Chambana and help to create space for those other 118 businesses and any other Black-owned businesses that may be out there. It is my life's passion to continue to find these Black-owned businesses, help them develop, and get the exposure they need in order to create long-term success. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight.
Thank you very much. We have time for a couple of questions for Mariah. Grace?
Thank you. Thanks again for the presentation, Mariah. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how the partnership with the City of Champaign looked like.
Awesome. So the partnership I currently have with the City of Champaign, they have the $2,500 partnership where they're able to use our newsletter in order to communicate resources and upcoming workshops to reach those extra 118 businesses that's not included anywhere else. And then they also pay by Black Chambana for technical assistance. So we were able to offer one-on-one consulting sessions with established business owners to help them reach operational needs. And we also hosted a business boot camp for those business owners who are still starting up and helping them to build capacity beyond having just one staff member.
Sharice.
Hi, Mariah. I have a cousin named Mariah. Um, what does your business boot camp entail?
Awesome. So it is an 8-week training course, and it touches on different topics that business owners need to build capacity, operations management, marketing, and then how to employ your first staff member. And so we've actually had some community business owners come up and tell them how they started their business and how they got the capital to grow. And it's really been inspiring to watch.
Does it because it sounds like something that was it the Urbana business UBA used to also kind of do. So with your partnerships, what I noticed is it seems like it's ads and stuff like that. What other stuff? I don't know if you could show that particular part of your presentation again, the screen that had all the checks and everything. I was trying to see all that, but yeah. So could you give me more information about how that happens?
Yes. So I'm going ahead and bringing up, I'm not sharing my screen anymore. But so how that happens is it depends on what your goals are and what you are trying to accomplish. We understand that By Black Chambana has a mission, but your organization also has a mission. And so we work within the confinements of what you're hoping to accomplish by piecing together what we can do to reach those goals. So I'm bringing that right back up. And so some of the biggest things is actually being that investor to help By Black Chambana continue to offer the events and the different resources we offer to these Black-owned businesses. I do want to let you guys know that we are a limited liability, so we are a for-profit corporation. So we do have staff members, and it's costly to continue to do outreach to find the businesses and maintain a directory. So by investing in the business, it helps with that. And then also being able to access those businesses that have no presence. Some of these businesses have no website. So it's really technical work to be able to help people who are marginalized, who still need to be reached.
Do you help them build websites as well?
Yes.
Is that part of your business boot camp?
It's not part of the business boot camp. We do talk about the best platforms to build your business on. Because it's just 8 classes, we don't get to go in depth, but it is something that they can work with the agency to get.
Okay, we're going to move on to James. Thank you, Sharice.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, thanks, Mariah, and congratulations on the success of your business. You mentioned that you're an LLC. Can you share a little bit about when you were forming the company, if you considered going 501c3 or more traditional nonprofit model where you'd be eligible for grants and donations?
Yes. So when we initially started, it was a grassroots initiative. One of our biggest concerns is getting a grant for 1 year, but not being able to financially stay afloat after that grant surpasses. And so we have stuck with this model so far because it's allowed us to still pay for our staff members. And we would hate to not be able to continue to provide this mission going forward.
All right,
Okay.
thanks. I'm just curious because many nonprofits carry staff and are able to move forward with what they're doing and have memberships and so forth. I'm not sure what you keep mentioning, that it's a staff trade-off between nonprofit and LLC, and I'm not sure I understand why that's a difference in this circumstance.
I completely understand. So some of the services we provide are not covered. Well, one, if you're making change, sometimes change looks a little bit different than the standard. And if you want something you've never had before, you got to do something that's never been done before. But what I'll say is some of the state funded grants, they are only for 12 months. And sometimes they don't cover the services that are needed to help the community. So we couldn't find any grants that would cover the Black Business Directory, but we know it's something that needs to be done. We couldn't find grants to host the events, but we know it's something that needs to be done. So what I did was take initiative. And during the Black Lives Movement, I sold over 1,200 Black Lives Matter signs. And I used that money to be able to pay staff to get this thing going, because I honestly believe if you build it, the people will come to it. I do think in the future, we may transition to a nonprofit status, but my goal is to be able to close the gap and serve the population we need to serve. And if grants will cover it, that will be amazing. But if not, we have to continue to put in the work to be able to serve that demographic.
All right, thanks. I appreciate your perspective on that.
Okay, I think at this point, the next step in this would be to have staff meet with you, Mariah. We need to identify what services you provide, what needs the city still has. We do have agreements with other organizations who are doing some similar things. There may be some overlap, but we can identify possibly where there would be opportunities and partnerships. So we can't take any action tonight. And this really isn't a discussion item, but this is a good overview of your organization. And we'll be reaching out.
Yes, I completely understand. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about my organization. And I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to public input. Alan Axelrod. And as a reminder, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So this is going to be a very simple public comments, unless if I do a segue to something else. So Champaign-Urbana is a union town. That's what's chanted at all our monthly meetings. I see that the closed session later, if I correctly read the agenda, is probably going to be addressing AFSCME 1331. So I just want to emphasize that they should definitely get a fair contract, even if that involves some American Rescue Plan funding to help make that happen. One of the things that I wanted to note when it comes to the contention around doing something addressing violence is that, and this is something that I messaged to my alderperson, Sharice, Chicago has decided to fund $500 a month to 5,000 low-income households. When you are considering how to use this money, you want to see the benefits directly at the population you intend to affect. So I would suggest that if we are looking at some similar ways to try and address root causes of crime and violent crime, such as poverty, that we try to consider to what extent we could create a similar initiative locally. Also, we have collected and continue to collect petition signatures for the Match the Mill campaign. I was very encouraged to hear how seriously Alderperson Mary Alice Wu took 526 signatures last week. I hope that when we are ready to present to this body, you similarly give the weight to the petition signatures that we present to you. I also want to note that Buy Black Chambana is great, and we need to very much ensure that the business of this city is respectful of organizations like that. We saw last year groups more or less do something wrong, then ask for forgiveness later when it comes to the integrity of Buy Black Chambana's work and what they had done to that. So I just want to say that you should take that into account when looking at supporting Buy Black Chambana, because they didn't have to do that to them last year. They just didn't. And I think that what the city is prepared to do is actually a very good thing almost in terms of restorative justice, if I were to say that. One thing that I would suggest for Buy Black Chambana, I know that there's a lot of work in this, but one of the things that this does, right, is it focuses on Black owners of businesses. That is good, but they are also managers. And if we want to consider workers and supporting the workers at a business, even if it is, say, white managed, but majority Black employees, and to have a specific focus on unionized ones that folks could support, I think that that would be a very positive step to making the chant Champaign-Urbana is a union town ring more true. I also want to note, last time I brought up that chant, we saw a unionization drive. Guess that might be related. Have a good one.
Okay, next person, the hand up, Jonathan Blake.
Hi, good morning or evening. How are you? How is everyone?
We're good.
I'm
Well,
here-
thank you.
I'm here today for a couple of reasons. Number one, I just want to read something really quick. Jonathan Blake was born September 10th, 1977, Mattoon, Illinois, to his parents, Ronald and Margie Blake. He currently lives in Urbana, Illinois, survived by both parents, one sibling, and 3 adopted siblings. He has 2 children. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the beginning of my own obituary. Last Thursday, I became a victim of the shootings in Urbana. And I'm here today because I want to voice my opinion. I want to be seen. I want everyone that is going to listen to know that this cannot continue. None of this makes sense. I am the 44-year-old gunshot victim on Bradley and Matthews Avenue. I was a victim of the drive-by shooting. And for what? Why? On Monday, you guys denied the license plate readers. I happen to be in a what they call a no stop zone. I didn't know this even existed. I know today. 233 confirmed shots fired. My car alone took 16 more shots. City Council, I want you to check your email right now. I just sent all of you documentation, photos, exhibits A through I of the damage that I took on as a person in your community. I've been in contact with Rodney Davis's office. And you know what he tells me? He tells me that there's already been letters sent to you guys. I would like to request more time.
You have about 2 more minutes, please.
Okay. I've contacted Rodney Davis's office. Grace, you're my ward. I pray that you can do something, even though you denied it. I hope you find it in your heart to do something. If our police cannot do something to protect the citizens, then call in the state police like Rodney Davis's office has said. Stand up, get these license plate readers in there. Do what needs to be done. You guys have 3.5 years before the next election. I'm not going away. I'm in bright collars. I plan on being loud and I'm going to be heard every step of the way. Start your legacy today, not tomorrow. I have to start my legacy today because they tried to kill me yesterday. I know lots of people and they're going to listen. And this is very emotional for me. No one should have to go through what I went through today or last Thursday. I pray that you guys find a way and make this work, because what if it was your family member What if it was your son or your daughter or your grandson or your granddaughter? And there's lots of what ifs. But the facts are something needs to be done today, not tomorrow and not 5 months when you guys have time to figure it out.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Next up is Linda Turnbull.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm here again. You guys, I had an incident happen where I was going to pick up a young lady from basketball practice, and it was like 20 rounds went off about 5 doors from my house. Again, somebody got shot in the car. Didn't nobody see nothing. I didn't see anything because I was coming out the door. Hallelujah. But right now, we need to do something about gun violence. I don't care what we do, we need to do something. Hallelujah. Because people are still getting hurt and we're not doing anything. Hallelujah. So another thing is, her name is Sarah Nixon. I didn't really appreciate last week, for the record straight, she said some things about me and Sharice. And I didn't like that because the stuff she said wasn't true. Anytime that somebody takes their time to go out during a pandemic to get signatures from people for stuff to try to help our community, and then people talk negative about the people that's doing all this stuff and work. I mean, if you want to know the real questions about what you need to know, you can call me at 217-550-6189, or you can text me if you don't want to talk to me, and then you get the true story and not to be making up stuff and saying wrong things about people at the city council, because I work my heart out to do the best I can for everybody in the community. Hallelujah. Again, we need to do something. I don't know what you guys need to do, but you need to do something to help prevent this gun violence. It's really gotten worse, and it's getting worse. And it's studying more and more shootings. I mean, we're going to have to come up with something together. We don't have to get on here and talk about each other because people feel insensitive about what's going on. You just need to appreciate it, respect everybody, what they're saying, and then work together as one. Everybody needs to come to the table as one and work out something to get something done for our community. And we don't have to badmouth people that's trying to do something. Hallelujah. That is not needed. I mean, everybody have their own opinions. We need to respect them and do it in the right way. And we all need to come together and make this work, because it takes a village to run a family, and it takes many people and many ideas to make this work. And we need multiple tools to solve this gun violence. But anyway, this thing is running out. I wasn't going to come on tonight. I had a real bad headache, but I said I'll come on and get the record straight, because my name was just called out there last week, and I didn't like that. Linda Turnbull and Sharice Hersey, all this stuff is not necessary. We need to come to the table and help find ways to solve this gun violence. We don't need to be calling people out, their names and all that stuff. We don't need to do that. We don't need to make different stories up on people. We just need to do the right thing. And everybody needs to get along and be happy. And you can't be happy right now because you're pretty stressed and dramatized, but do the right thing in Jesus' name. But other than that, you guys have a nice Thanksgiving, what you can have. Hallelujah. And put those heads together and let's brainstorm and let's get something done here. Bye.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the Urbana City Council? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. There is none. Reports of standing committees. We have one item on the agenda.
Mayor Marlin,
Yes.
what about council input and communications?
Oh, I'm sorry. Skipped right over that. Thank you, Darcy. Next item, council input and communications. Sharice.
Yeah, I just I would like to, number one, thank Mariah for her presentation. It was very informative and I really appreciate that. The second thing I'd like to say is I'm sorry to Jonathan Blake. I'm sorry that you were caught up in what seems to be a problem that we aren't willing to step out and solve on some level. I don't know why, but I'm sorry that that had happened to you. I'm also sorry that whoever was shot at Carl last week, that they had to also experience that particular problem. Regarding in my answer to Alan Axelrod, and he, was talking about the giving of money and so on and so forth, which is nice for Chicago. They have a larger population, a larger tax base, and so on and so forth. I don't know how any program like that would work here. And as far as, and we're not, the root problem of crime is not just poverty. Sometimes it's just how one might be prone to the decisions that they make. And regarding that particular issue as well, when he says I needed to look at the community that this is affecting, and I'm not sure, I may, it's not verbatim. I don't know verbatim exactly how he put it. I can't remember, but it is one of those things where I felt like this wasn't about stopping crime. It wasn't about even stopping the gun issue as much as it was about solving and having a foothold in solving who is committing the crime, which is something that unfortunately Mr. Blake and or the person that was shot at Carl probably will never have a resolution to. So that's my comments tonight.
Any other council member comments?
Diane?
Yes. I'm trying to see everyone on the screen here. Mary Alice.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the public and city council know that I've been talking to Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers is a non-for-profit organization, and they have right now an illegal gun bounty reward program. So it was a pilot program that was initiated on January 10th, 2019, and they give $1,000 cash reward payment to anybody who provides an anonymous tip that leads to the arrest of a person who's used a gun during the commission of a felony crime in Champaign County. So to date, they've had success of 41 arrests. They've been able to remove 54 firearms, including 40 handguns and 3 shotguns. In my discussions with them, they are interested in raising the bounty to $2,000. And so they currently have a fundraising going on to see if they can increase the gun bounty for that. So that's something that's going on in our community that I hope City Council will take a look at and maybe we can support.
Any other council member comments? Jaya.
I want to thank Mariah for her presentation tonight and for the public comments as well. And just to say that I at least have no question in my mind that every single person who is part of this council, every person who works for the city is dedicated to addressing the gun violence in our community. We're seeing differences in approach. I don't think that we have to be limited to just looking at those big picture projects. There are other more immediate methods that we could take, including trying to implement a violence interrupter program. I'm not saying it'll happen overnight, but that's a model that is evidence-based and it has been researched in multiple locations. So I just want to say, even as we are looking at the bigger picture, there's nothing to say that we cannot continue to discuss and work on implementing more immediate responses as well. And that I think it's on all of us to make sure that we continue to work to address this problem, not only in the long term, but in the immediacy as well.
Any other council comments? Grace.
Thank you. want to also just reiterate that, yes, I agree with the need to urgently address and reduce gun violence, and I appreciate people's input and sharing hard stories and hard experiences. And it's something I definitely do take seriously. And, like Jay said, yes, want to address and have meaningful ways to reduce that. To explore other options, and we'll try and bring some myself. And I also agree with the importance of keeping respect for our fellow community members in our comments all the way around, and coming together to address our community problems. I also want to thank Mariah for the presentation and just speak on support for supporting Buy Black Chambana. I look forward to staff working with her for seeing how we can make that work. And I hope that council can be involved with an update and possibly input on that, because it sounds like it is kind of flexible. And I encourage them to explore what she did with the City of Champaign, because I don't know if that was what someone was getting at with her being a nonprofit, but I don't think that eliminates a partnership. And then lastly, I also just want to thank Jason and wish best wishes on whatever comes next. Thank you.
I'm sorry, my lost connection for a minute there. Grace, you finished your comments?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Any other council comments? Okay, we'll move on to reports from the Committee of the Whole. Grace?
Thank you. Let me know if I don't say this right, but I think I say on behalf of the committee as a whole, I recommend for approval resolution number 2021-1-046R, a resolution estimating the tax levy fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Grace, seconded by Chandra. Discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Ms. Colasetti,
Yes.
Ms. Bishop,
Yes.
Ms. Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Yes.
and as this is a budget one, Mayor, do you need to vote as well?
I don't believe I.
Oh,
did
it's
on
not.
this one.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you.
That motion passes. Thank you. Next up is reports of special committees. There aren't any tonight. Reports of officers. Do we have any reports, Carol?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, just a reminder that council priority setting is scheduled for December 2nd and 3rd. December 2nd starts at 5:30. December 3rd is at 6 p.m. These will be in person, publicly noticed, and I've been asked to remind council members, if you have not given your food preferences to Kate Levy, please do so as soon as possible. She needs to place the order. And I just wanted to thank our staff members, Darius White, Bridget Broyhand, Rachel Storm, for all they've done to support the development of the African American Heritage Trail. Some of us saw a preview of that last week, and it's phenomenal. It's an effort led by Visit Champaign County with a fairly large committee of community members, and it's going to be a tremendous addition to the county, and I think an attraction, actually a regional attraction, and it highlights and celebrates the contributions and our Black history in our community. So I wanted to thank the staff and the community members who have assisted in the development of that. Okay, next item on the agenda is a preliminary discussion, or the first discussion probably of several over the next couple of years, but it's of the review of the block level 2020 census results. I asked Bill Brown to take a preliminary look at these. As an introduction, I do have a couple of slides I wanted to share with the council to kind of provide some context. So I'd ask Jason to share the screen. Welcome, Bill.
Hi, hi, council. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm going to start off, Bill.
Oh, okay.
And lead in. So just to give some context for this discussion, the 2020 census was conducted last year. We received the results in June. They've been certified now by the Secretary of State. Our official 2020 population is a disappointing 38,336. In 2020 or 2010, our population was 41,250. So this is a significant decline in the census population. Next slide, please. Typically, after the 2020 census, we'd be looking at redrawing or tweaking the ward boundaries to account for changes in population. This year, we're also considering, following the 2020 census, we're also needing to consider a special census. Next slide. State law requires that we do make sure that our ward populations are, quote, nearly equal. You can have a variation of up to 10%. We probably will need to adjust some boundaries to reflect the 2020 population. Wards are supposed to be as compact and contiguous as possible. It's easier to be compact near campus where we have fairly dense populations. As you get out into especially the north and east part of the city where we have very irregular boundaries, that becomes a bigger challenge, but we've been very successful in the past. State law requires that a new ward map is approved not less than 30 days before the first day for filing candidate petitions for next election of city officers. Our municipal elections take place every 4 years. The next election is in spring of 2025. That statute requirement is actually the very last possible time. Really, our goal would be to make sure we have an approved ward map by the spring of 2024 so that people have plenty of time to prepare for the 2025 elections. Next slide. Considering the drop in population following the 2020 census, we do need also to consider conducting a special census. This is not something that's taken lightly. Last time City of Urbana did that, it was in the early 2000s, and that was following the construction of the Savannah Green subdivision. So some questions that we need to be looking at is, number one, are we eligible? Typically, you request a special census if you see an increase in population. In our case, we're trying to recapture population that was lost in the 2020 census. I believe there's a strong case to be made that a lot of this decline in our counted numbers is the fact that the census took place at the very same time that the University of Illinois campus shut down and many people switched to remote working and learning, and that had a significant impact on the university population and therefore the City of Urbana population. So we have a call into the Census Bureau to make sure we could even do this. A special census involves money and a lot of work on the part of the local government, which is why you don't take it lightly. The Census Bureau itself collects and tabulates the data for areas that we identify as being areas we want to recount. But our responsibility would be to work with the Census Bureau to help plan the census in terms of identifying the areas. We're responsible for recruiting all the workers and up to 5 times the number actually needed. We have to provide office space and all equipment necessary to support the special census, and this could be from several weeks to several months. We conduct all outreach in terms of educating the public and promoting the census and advertising that we're doing this. And then the local government pays for all expenses. So we have to, as we consider this, all of these things have to be taken into account, whether the benefits will outweigh the cost of the special census. The special census program resumes in 2023. So we do have some time for preparation and to make this decision. It was suspended in 2018. So looking ahead, those are the things that we're going to be looking at in the coming months. Next slide. Ideally, if we had a perfect world, we would conduct a special census. We'd recapture the population, or most of it, that was lost to COVID-19. We'd get our special census results back in time to approve a ward map for spring of 2024, and that would set us on a path toward holding the municipal election in spring of 2025. So lots of decisions to make in the coming months, but this is just kind of the high-level overview of some of the things that we're facing. And I see a hand up, but I think we'll move on to Bill and take questions afterwards. That's okay. So I'll hand it over to Bill. He's been on the block level basis going through a lot of these numbers.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think I can share my screen now. Can you see that okay?
Yep, we can see it, Bill.
Okay. I don't think there'll be too much overlap. We didn't coordinate this. I may touch on some of the same things the mayor did. So I'll just go through, I wanted to go through some slides first showing just a little bit about the census. I don't know how much people already know about it. So the different levels of census data, and then what we can look at and what we can see from the census itself as far as changes in the block level data. So there's three main local geographies that the census uses. The largest is the census tract that everybody's probably heard of. Typically, that'll be about 4,000 people. I gotta move the Zoom out of my way here. Yeah, about 4,000 to 5,000 people, although it can vary anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000, something like that. Usually in Champaign County, they're 4 to 5. Then the next level below that is called the block group. So that's it's a little bit smaller areas. There's usually 3 to 5 block groups in a census tract. In Champaign County, there's 158 block groups. These lines do get changed a little bit every 10 years. Every census, they give the local, like Regional Planning Commission, I think usually coordinates it. And they have specific criteria that they use to adjust tract lines. So sometimes, when there's been additions to a city, a tract that used to be all country is getting too big, and they try to divide it up a little bit. And that did happen this year, a little bit more than it did the last 10-year census. But the block groups is what you also see used in the community development block grant program. That's what the little map is there. So those are the target areas that a lot of our CDBG money can go to, but those are based on block groups. And then the final lowest level is actually the census block. So those are defined by physical boundaries, so roads, railroads, rivers, anything that actually you can make a polygon out of, so that there's no doubt about which block group somebody's in because they're either on one side of the street or the other. So that's the lowest level that we get the numbers at. And for the decennial census, and then the census blocks are also used to build the wards. So you can, I'll talk a little bit toward the end about a tool that you can use online to actually add blocks to wards and take them off if you want to play with the map itself. So the decennial census is what we just finished in 2020, and it's a full count of every residence every 10 years as of April 1st. So it doesn't ask a whole lot of questions. The main things, the results you get out of it are the number of people, age, race, ethnicity, in relationship to the householder. And that's it, really. So all the data you see about economic data, median family income, people in poverty, employment, enrollment in school, commuting, all that comes from a different survey. And those also aren't shared at the block level because they aren't statistically significant at that level. They're shared at the larger levels, the block group or the tract levels. The other thing in 2020 with the block level data, we have to kind of be conscious of when we're looking at the fine resolution data is they do add some noise to it. That's because they found that by combining the census data with some commercial databases and other surveys, it was too easy to identify households. And so in order to protect privacy, especially for blocks that don't have a large population, they actually add noise to it. So it can result in some improbable results. So you may click on a block and it says there's 4 housing units with 30 people and all of them are under the age of 18. So you can get some things like that. But as you accumulate blocks to develop larger geographies like wards, that noise tends to cancel out. That's the way they designed it. It's a really sophisticated way of protecting privacy. And it's a little bit different than they used 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they actually swapped data, but they kept the numbers the same. This time they've actually introduced noise, so the numbers change a little bit too. So you can also end up with people living in places where there's like one apartment in some commercial building or something. You might have 20 or 30 people in the census, but it's not there. But all that noise goes away as you grow the areas, so it kind of cancels out. And what was released this year so far from the Decennial Census is called the redistricting data. So that's a subset of what will eventually be released in the coming months. And over the next year, they'll be releasing more data at the block level that refines the age categories more. Right now, we just have under 18 and over 18. So it'll be a little bit more refined. They'll also do some data quality checking. So the other survey I just touch on because we aren't going to be looking at this kind of data is the ACS, American Community Survey. And the way that works is about 1% to 2% of all the households are supposed to be surveyed every year. And they get what we used to call the long form about 20 years ago when people actually got 2 different forms when they did the census. And that asks a lot more questions about income, employment, and all those things. And so then they publish a 5-year rolling average. So every year a new average comes out. The most recent one is 2019, but that covers years 2015 through 2019. So it's a combination of all 5 years in order to increase the sample. So you have a sample of about 7 to 10%, probably more like 7. The response rate, especially the last couple of years, has been going down. So that data also includes a margin of error because it is statistically sampled, so it's not as accurate. So as long as you use it at an appropriate geographic scale, you can get pretty good data out of it, but it would be inappropriate to try to use that at a block or even sometimes a block group level. So this year with the redistricting data, we get the counts for housing units. And housing units are one of the things that they don't mess with as far as adding the noise. So the housing units that they have provided us for each block should be accurate. Urbana has 18,307 housing units. That's actually down by quite a bit from last year, by almost 1,000, from 10 years ago. And I'll show some reasons why that is. There was probably a pretty significant error in the census last year that was pretty well known at the time. Our group quarters total is also down. That's mostly because ISR will be looking at that too. These other categories aren't huge differences that the well, the juvenile facilities, I think they used to count something that they aren't counting anymore. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I'd have to check on that. The only other thing, the correctional is down some, but I think that might be back up now. So here's some different, I mean, these are the ones that the mayor talked about, the 41,000 and 38,000. They also do an annual update that's, again, a statistically determined estimate, comes out every year, that they do from the top down. So they look at migration and births and deaths and migration basically at the state and county level. And then they distribute it down to the local level based on other known attributes of local data. So the most recent estimate was 42,214. And we think, or I think, that that's probably going to be closer than what we were given. If we do a good recount, we'll probably come out somewhere in between those two. The other thing to think about is how the enrollment at the U of I has changed. Starting in 2017, the U of I changed the way that they report enrollment. They used to report on campus separately, and now they put everybody together. So I made two different discontinuous graph for that. And Mary Alice may be more familiar with the differences, but I assume that all students includes like a lot of online enrollment that may or may not be local. So I just put in some trend lines so we could try to guess where the on-campus enrollment might be. It also varies quite a bit between spring and fall. Normally the census is always supposed to be based on April 1st, so that would be closer to the spring enrollment. If we did a recount and it happened to be in the fall, that might be to our advantage. So some of these things, I think the mayor already talked about. The census count question resolution was the one, I don't remember if she talked about that or not, but there's a real narrow criteria for allocating population. That if there's a technical mistake and somebody misnumbered a block, and this actually happened in 2000, somebody put somehow the people that were counted at one of the FAR residence halls ended up in Foosland, and it was pretty obvious when the numbers came out. So they actually were able to correct that, but it took a couple of years to work its way down through the census data. But that was something they could do without charging us, and that was something that would qualify under this program. As far as I know, we haven't been notified if we're eligible for anything under that, and it doesn't look like they're going to. I thought originally they might try to get some kind of pandemic impact for university towns to fall under that, but it doesn't look like they will. But we should know, in theory, by the end of the year, whether we'll be able to qualify for anything under that. Then the other thing is the special census that the mayor's already talked about. We would, Urbana would have to reimburse the Census Bureau for costs and help recruit the census takers, have to provide the office space and everything. The count itself is real similar. The form looks the same, you still have to fill out the same information, and it can still be done online. So if we do a good job of getting people to do it online, that might help reduce costs. And it's often used to capture new construction. We do have some new construction that you'll see in the maps, and can do a full or partial recount. This is some numbers I got from Elizabeth today, just to show how much money we're potentially losing by not counting people. So this was the annual estimate total due to the 2,900 people that the population decrease. But it comes out to about 212, maybe 214 by the time you get the library per capita in there. So about $214 per person per year. So if we get a recount done in, say, in a couple years, and it'd be good for 6 years or 7 maybe, you can figure about $1,200 per person over the 6 years. So then when we're looking at places to recount, you can think about, how much it would benefit. So example 1, ISR was well below capacity in 2020 with Townsend closed and Wardell not as desirable with no cafeteria, I think. I don't remember which year they closed the cafeteria. The likely count would probably increase the Black total by at least 500 and benefit at least 642,000 over the 6 years. So that's an example of, it can definitely pay to recount. Then another example where you'd have to kind of think about it a little bit more. We have the new Pinewood Place, the new affordable housing complex in Colorado, 24 new 1-bedroom units, but the census blocks also includes more than 700 people in several large apartment complexes. With normal fluctuation of their occupancy, there might not be any guarantee that 24 additional people would actually add to the block's final recount. And plus the recount may cost more than the potential $30,000 benefit over 6 years. It probably is a lot more expensive to count more people in a lot of different apartments. So unless that was a real heavy student area where we thought, there might be another 50 or 100 people we could pick up there, that would be one we'd have to look a little bit closer at as far as the cost benefit goes. So a couple just slides about changes in it. The race data that we've gotten so far. So the African-American population, I think in 2010 was around 16.5%. This is showing it at 18.9. If the undercount is mostly U of I students, that would probably drop this figure a little bit because U of I students are not as diverse as far as African Americans go as Urbana as a whole. So it's probably somewhere around 17.5%, something like that. Asian population probably hasn't changed a whole lot. And Hispanic and Latino probably hasn't changed a whole lot. This is 3 maps from 2000 to 2020 showing both population density and racial diversity. So each dot on these maps represents 3 people. So you can see the dense areas near campus, and then the blue is white, red is Black, green is Asian, and yellow is other race. Other race is often chosen by Hispanic populations, but also a lot of Middle East and Northern African people. So that was, I'm gonna go back 2000, 2010, 2020. And just one map on the wards, a couple maps maybe. So the preliminary counts on the ward population, if you need to target, if you divide the 2020 population by 7, you get 5,477. So Ward 1 would need to add a little bit. Ward 2 would need to add a lot. Ward 3 would be taking a little bit away. Ward 4 would be taking some away. Ward 5 would need to add. And 6 and 7 would need to subtract. And there's a tool online called Dave's Redistricting. I know some people from the county board were using this when they redid their map. The school district is going to make this available to the public too. And it's already up. I mean, I gave Wayne the blocks that are in each ward. So that's all you need really to upload a map to Dave's Redistricting. And so I've copied his. This is a copy of Urbana Current. He has one called Urbana Current that he published. And then you can just go in there and change it if you want. So that's probably something we'll make available to people if they want to try to change the map themselves. Let me go back here. I didn't mention, and Dave's also does quite a bit of analysis with voting patterns. I just put in the 3 most recent elections and the total votes cast, just to compare the main election in the fall to the municipal elections in the spring. So you can see that, in every precinct, the yellow lines denote precincts, so they don't really line up with the wards so much. But in every precinct, the people that vote in the general election for president is many times higher than people that vote in the municipal elections. So you can talk about trying to make the wards, different, but really if you want to impact who gets elected, you just need to get more people out to vote, because in any one of these wards, if you could get an extra 100 people out, I mean, these bars are proportional. So there's like 1,400 votes, 1,600 votes in this precinct, and fewer than 300 people voted. And this isn't registered votes. This is actual people that voted in the presidential election compared to municipal elections. So next, I just wanted to go through on a live map and show you some of the more interesting changes. Hope I'm not taking too much time. Can everybody still see that okay?
Nope, you're not, you stopped sharing your screen, Bill.
Oh, sorry. Let me try that again.
Okay, we can see that now, Bill.
Okay, now you can see that. Okay, so this map is a live map. You can just go in and, like, ISR is the big one. Click on it. You can see what 2020 was. The change, it's down 694 people in that block. So that includes Townsend, Wardell, and some grad student apartments there. So by using this and going through and examining the blocks at a closer level, you can get a pretty good indication of where the growth has been and where we might be able to benefit by recounting. I did want to talk just briefly about this area, One North and Capstone. It's supposedly down 720. That's probably not too far off. In 2010, the population was, they said, was 1,600 people, and housing units were almost 1,600. In that area, it's common. I think all of One North has, most of it is 4-bedroom apartments, and they have addresses with A, B, C, D in the apartment because everybody can pay rent individually. And in 2010, I think they each got their own census form. And according to the census form, you're supposed to fill it out for everybody in the household, which would be the apartment. So some of them were probably filling it out and got double counted by filling it out for everybody in the apartment. The actual housing units, 494, is probably a lot. That's what was counted this year. And last year was 494. That's probably a lot closer to what's actually there. And the population, 906, may be down a little bit for the same reason the other student areas are down. But it's probably somewhere between 900 and 1,200, something like that. So that's right away, that's a big part of the difference. Is there were a couple places that were overcounted in 2010. Another one was this area. I can't think of why it would have had 100. It has 0 now. It's where OSF is. I can't think of why there would have been 143 people counted there in 2010. I think those are the two main ones. There is a growth campus circle that was 0 in 2010. It's 500 now. The retreat has started to get counted, but we don't think that that's really. It was only about half full or less when they had the census in 2020. So that one might be worth recounting. Actually do have some. points of interest. Yeah, and then that one is the Gather, Illinois in that was counted as 12 people in 2020. So that'll probably be up a few hundred if we did a recount once it's all, I guess it's all rented now. So probably already 300 people there. This is 901 Western. That was a positive that went up. This was Hendrick House. It was 310 in 2020. And for something. Yeah, 446 in 2010. So that's down 30%. So I think a lot of the student areas are probably seem to be down about 25 to 30% if they're heavily rental areas. So these purple areas are blocks that might be worth looking at to recount because they were down with more than 20 students or more than 20% or both. So if you add up all those and you add up some of the known ones like ISR and the new construction, comes out to a little over 3,000, maybe 3,200. So it could be pretty possible to get back up to where we were and maybe a few hundred higher. So basically there has been some growth because that makes up for the overcounts and adds a little bit more. I mean, I could go look at some other spots if people are interested, but I think I could stop for now and see if you have any questions.
Any questions for Bill? I know James has been waiting, then we'll do Grace and then Sharice. Go ahead, James.
All right, so my first question was the very first slide had a comparison of population from 2010 to 2020. Was that 2010 number the number from 2010, or was it the one that had been updated after the correction?
It was the 2010 census number.
Okay, so it didn't have the correction from like the Foosland error.
It's the one that we've been using as Urbana population. So
Okay.
I think it must have been the correction. Yeah.
And then regarding drawing the ward map, is there any circumstance other than the 2025 election that the ward map would be important for? Say, for example, a council member moved early in their term, left the city, and it was early enough that we had to do a special election to replace them. Would we have to have a ward map that reflected the decennial census for that special election?
At this point, I asked a similar question to IML, and apparently they don't think so, but that would be something we do need to confirm.
All right, thanks.
I just the Foosland error was actually in 2000, so that's a pretty old error.
Oh, okay.
That was corrected like in 2003 or so.
All right.
Oh, Grace, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having this as a discussion item, and thank you, Bill, for the presentation. I was wondering if you could share those slides and web links with us. Thank you. And then
yeah. I can share the slides. The live map I have that I created. I'm a little hesitant to share just because it takes kind of the context that were in the slides to understand, and if people don't understand the introduction of noise and stuff, you can click on a block like on the quad that says there's 9 people living there, and people might lose faith in the data, but I can try to update that map and maybe put up a splash screen or something to explain some of that and eventually share that. But for now, I can share the slides.
Thank you. And then I was hoping to just recap, and maybe Bill and the mayor, or whoever else, could verify that this is the situation. So I'm hearing that we're not sure if we're eligible yet for a recount or the special census recount, but we will know our eligibility and more about the recent census data by November. Is that right so far?
I think there's two different kinds of special census. So the special census count that we pay for, we can do. We don't need permission for that. We will need an estimate of cost from the Census Bureau, and they won't start doing it until 2023. The other one, that quality count, is one that, I don't know, Diane, if you've heard already, but it seems like we probably won't qualify for that, but there may be a possibility.
Yeah, it's unlikely that we'd qualify, but they're going to notify cities that do qualify in December, according to the Census Bureau.
Okay. So that's for the count question resolution, but you're saying the special count, there's no qualifier, we just have to pay for it, right?
Right.
And so sounds like we're maybe wait till December anyway to hear about that and get more data.
Yeah, and one other thing I didn't mention is I'm not quite sure if you can count blocks individually or if you have to count block groups. I sent in a question about that, like if we do a special census, which would be still a couple years away, or a year and a half, we may have to designate which block groups we want to recount rather than the individual blocks. It'd be nicer if we could do the individual blocks because we could probably save some money that way.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the next step of verifying that. Then after December, if we decide if we do the special count, probably won't qualify for the CQR one, then we would weigh the potential benefits and costs. And if the benefits outweigh, then we could look into special recount for select areas by block or block group. And that we need to draw the ward map before spring 2024, with or without the census recount, possibly sooner if there's some other reason sooner. Is that okay? Cool, thank you. That's all.
Other questions, Sharice?
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sharice.
Okay, I have a few questions because even though I worked really hard to try to get everybody to, do the census, there's a lot of things that I don't understand and just don't know. So how will a block group census or a block, well, first of all, what's the difference between a block group and a block?
Yeah, the block is basically a city block. So it's defined by your streets, that you live on. The block group is just several of those put together in a bigger unit. So
like Ellis subdivision versus just one of the streets in Ellis subdivision.
Yeah, the block itself is actually defined by the streets as a border. So it would be the street you live on plus the street the people to the north you live on. Your backyard neighbors would be on the same block you are. But then you put like maybe 6 of those together. It varies how many of those go together to make a block group, kind of depending on the population density and everything. But it's just another way the block groups originally, when they were designed, was to try to target about 1,000 people per block group. So you could do relevant census statistics at a appropriate scale and get some good information out of it.
So a block group, just so I have this understood, a block group would be, for example, my street, my backyard neighbors, or the backyard neighbors on the street over, as well as the people across the street.
A block group, did you say?
Yeah, or that's a block.
A block would be every place you could go without crossing a street from your house. So you could go around the block. So that would be a block.
Okay, so it would be my backyard neighbors and my street on my side, south side of my street. So Okay, so that's a block group. Okay. Now a block would be considered my entire subdivision?
Yeah, you got them twisted around. The block
Okay.
is the small one. Yeah. But the
Okay.
block group would be, the block group would be subdivision scale, but it may not exactly be your subdivision. It may split your subdivision in half.
Okay, I just want to kind of get an idea. So my other question is, now that I have that, how will if we do a special census, how will that affect the already certified redistricting in Illinois that Illinois has accepted?
Yeah, it wouldn't affect that.
It wouldn't affect that. Okay. And as far as, and you kind of answered this during your presentation, as far as doing the special census regarding how we would count U of I students in, would it be more beneficial for us to count from fall of 2022 and the spring of 2023? If that is even possible, I don't know. Or would it be just beneficial for us to start in spring of 23, like in March, up until the end of the semester?
Yeah, from what I understand, they aren't taking any applications or you have to get an estimate of cost from the Census Bureau, and they have to schedule people to come out and help do it and organize it. We do pay people, or we don't, but they used to have the city pay them, but now they just have city reimburse the Census Bureau. But we do have to help recruit census takers. So all that'll take some time. So I doubt if we'd be able to start in the spring of 2023. It might be in the fall of 2023, or potentially spring of 2024. And 10 years ago, when they were doing special census, they said the turnaround time, once it finished, it takes about 6 weeks to do it, depending on how big of an area you have. But then the turnaround time was about 90 days, you would get numbers back. So if they still can do that, it seems like it would be in time to redo the wards.
Okay. And as far as you were talking about the count, a lot of the places that you named were in my ward. So I'm very interested in, would we do basically a block group count for Capstone and One North and the Retreat? Is that how that would go? The other thing, because we also have One South and One North, I don't know if those two are kind of related in any area, but I was also thinking about the Lakeview Terrace area. I think that's what it's called, where it used to be Lakeside Terrace is now there are other apartments over there. Crystal, what's it called? Crystal View?
Crystal View.
Okay, so I'm just like mixing them up. I got a Lakeview, but yeah.
Yeah, Crystal View was actually up because I think in 2010 it wasn't quite full yet. And so they were still kind of finishing up Crystal View in 2010. So that area was up. The Kerr Avenue, the new development on Kerr Avenue, Highland Greens, that contributed. Those I don't think you'd have to recount. Those seem pretty good. The Atrium Apartments was another one that had an overcount in 2010. That was another one that rented out by the bedroom. Those, it might be worth recounting those. You know, there's a lot of units there. It would probably be expensive to recount those. So we'd have to take a closer look at those, try to estimate the undercount a little bit better, maybe by going by estimated student population in those areas, things like that. So I think the One North is kind of an open question. One South, that block was down 43, which was only 12%. So yeah, some of those, I think if it's 10% down, it's going to be kind of tricky to figure out if it's worth recounting, because it could also come out lower if they happen to have a low occupancy year, or in some of these areas, if the new buildings are drawing people away from some of the other buildings, we want to make sure that we don't recount someplace that comes out lower. So I think that's a good question on some of those, but One North definitely we expected to be way down. because of that suspected overcount last time.
Okay, and I guess the other thing I wanted to know is there an estimated cost for this undertaking and how much that might possibly how much it could possibly run? Maybe even giving me an overestimation of how much that could be worth.
I don't know. I mean, I think Gabe mentioned that a couple of towns did partial recounts that cost 150 to 200,000, but it really just depends on how much you have to recount. I would expect ours to be higher than that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. One more question. Mary Alice.
Yeah, so Sharice had the question. I'm wondering if anybody knows how much we paid for the last time that we did the special recount.
I don't know offhand. It was a long time ago. Salaries for enumerators are a lot higher now.
Yes. And then remind me, I think when we had talked about the census and we talked about the university housing, does the university provide the counts for their residential places? So the count for ISR and those places we can officially get from the university rather than having to go there?
That's what they do for the decennial census. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. So like for FAR and all the housing, the residence halls actually had people in all the group quarters. Those are considered group quarters that had people in it. The university turned those numbers in March, so we're pretty confident in all those numbers. FAR, PAR block is almost the same as it was 10 years ago. It's the ones that are private housing and the apartment buildings where the undercounts were. And then for the recount, that's another question that I'm not sure about, but from what I understand for the recount, they might not do that. So if we did a recount of ISR, it might have to be each individual entering their data online or with a form. So we'll have to figure that out. It would have been a lot nicer if the U of I could give us those numbers. So there may be some hope there. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we can have I mean, because ISR was in, they're redoing it, so it was totally closed. But, if they can give us the numbers, or if Hendrick's house, since it's group quarters, can give us the numbers rather than having all those people fill it out, I think it would decrease our administrative costs significantly.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep you posted as we go forward. Wayne Williams did suggest that we might want to have a redrawn map based on the 2020 census, keep it in our back pocket, have it available if we need it and approve it, but with the hope that we get a special census and then tweak it before we actually go to approve it. So we still have some options to think about, but I just wanted to have you at least get a peek at some of the high level information. And I really appreciate Bill putting this together. This is a really good start for us.
My pleasure.
Because he loves
Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. We will, last item on the agenda, we'll move into our closed session. Just a reminder, after the motion is made and we vote on it, you'll exit from this Zoom meeting, and Kate Levy will have sent you a link to the closed session Zoom, and we'll see you there. So I'll need a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of discussing collective bargaining issues pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C2.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session based on collective bargaining issues pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Sharice. The clerk, please call the roll.
Miss Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans. Mr. Evans, I believe you're still muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes. All right, we'll exit this meeting and join the other Zoom. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to end the closed session.
Move to in closed session.
I'll second.
Moved by Sharice, seconded by Mary Alice. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans, Miss Hersey,
Yes.
Miss Colasetti,
Yes.
Miss Bishop,
Yes.
Miss Wilkin,
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry,
Yes.
Mr. Evans,
Yes.
Motion passes. And with no further business before this council, we'll adjourn. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.
You guys have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.